it up today and go into the very depths of the questions, to really ponder your spiritual goal and goal of your sadhana, to really answer that question seriously. Not just in terms of giving a book answer, but what is expected of you. But even if that is the case, and you truly do feel that your goal is enlightenment, happiness, peace of mind, etc., then you must examine today and see if you are really committed to that goal. All right. If it is your goal, then are you really committed to that? How deeply committed are you to the achievement of that goal? So you must really, really enter into that. And if you are really, truly committed to the goals that you have shared with me, then you must begin to really look at what must be done to attain that goal. It's not just going to happen. You must really enter into a real process to bring that goal into reality. What must you really, really do? More importantly, what must you stop doing in order to get down to the business of what you must do? And you must really get into that. You must try to decide that. There is not a better opportunity than the kind of opportunity that we have created for ourselves yesterday and today to really sit in front of that. What must you really do to attain your goal? What must you stop doing? You must look into that. And if you have begun to find some of the things you must be doing, then you must ask yourself, why haven't you been doing them? If you know what you must do, why have you not been doing that? So the spirit of this retreat is to really put you into a different state. To really seriously stop here and look at it. To find the motivation that brought you to the path in the first place. What were you looking for? Were you looking for a way to be forgiven for your sins? Were you looking for a way to ensure yourself against the unknown phenomena of death? What were you motivated towards in coming to this path in the first place? Really take a look into that. What is hindering? What is helping? What are the benefits you really get? But you must look into all of that. And moreover, you must truly look at the kind of self you have created that has had one singular purpose, self-gratification to the family. And look at this self that you have created and that you have used in the world. And see whether that self that you have created and have been and have become addicted to being, see if that kind of self has any possibility of achieving your spiritual goal. How would you achieve your spiritual goal unless you really change that self? That dysfunctional self that you are so dependent on. So you must really look at that. You must make God real. You must make your pursuit of God real. It must not be academic. Don't leave it at the level of theology. You must make your pursuit of God very real. You must get really sincere about that. Nothing less than that will do. God realization is not going to answer in the back of the book. It's not going to help. No need to try to demonstrate to me your grasp of the teaching. That is of no value whatsoever. You must really decide what kind of relationship are you really going to form with God. Are you going to continue to try to pull your racket on God now? The same racket you've been running on every other human being you ever come in contact with? You're going to hoodwink God? You're going to swindle your way to enlightenment? You're going to have to drop your ego racket. You're going to have to get out of business, close up shop, if you truly wish to achieve your spiritual goals. So today I want us to take advantage of the time we have still here and really try to come away from this place today with some kind of made-up mind about this thing. Take advantage of the solitude. This place has so much of the feeling of there. You've heard me talk on many occasions about having the great opportunity to go to the Dairy. Maharaji had created such an environment just like this. Beautiful, quiet. Years of serious meditation had occurred in the Dairy. As many, many years of prayer has occurred at this very place that we're in. You already know that this was a monastery. In the rooms that you were sleeping in slept monks who had devoted their life to their pursuit of God. They had made a decision. And you can feel their spirit and their commitment still in every brick in this place. So we want to take advantage of that spirit, this atmosphere here. And you really want to look into these holy Qurans, because these are holy Qurans I've given you. And you must begin to answer them at a level deeper than your intellect, deeper than your academia, deeper than your metaphysics. You must really, really ponder, do you really want God realization to the point that you're willing to give up your ego racket and stop all this nonsense and get down to the business that you know you must do. Just a few more things, changes in our itinerary. I'm looking forward to having more time today to work with each of you. So I need to create more time for you to get into the spirit. So you might want to note your schedules as follows. Of course, right after this session of practice, we will be going to breakfast. The 9:15 session, we will not have, and in this place, I hope you will go to your rooms and continue to explore and search for the answers to these questions I have given you. We will, however, resume here at 11 o'clock for our final meditation together for today. So the 9:15 session will be removed to give you an opportunity to really begin to get into a deeper reflection. For those of you who have done some reflection already this morning and have updated your responses, then at 9:15 I will be downstairs. You all know where we were last night. And I will simply sit and wait for you. Those of you who still have more contemplation to do, I will still find ways to be available somehow, because we don't want to waste any of this opportunity. Japanese garden over there.
Where is it? Okay, go ahead.
You got to show me how to once the fruit has become ripened, once the fall, it cannot be reattached. Such is common.
Black man.
Get it all in one rush. But these, you don't have to just 1 minute. But the very posture is, you know, it's going to be. I'm going to go through this back.
Hey, I can imagine.
You better go get that big fish.
I am. Mr. Unksall. I'm gonna go put my camera, but I'll be back.
Oh, you gonna work?
Wrap 'em up.
Like I'm in the dairy. you and I have been having a long conversation. Open up your Gita. Turn to your forgiveness. You see, forgiveness, first of all, is an act we do in our own behalf. Forgiveness is a way to release ourselves from all of the inner turmoil that we find ourselves. When we are in this state of anger, automatically that anger is being perpetuated by your refusal to let go of the resentment of having been wrong. We're carrying in ourselves resentment about being wrong 30 years ago. In addition to the resentment of being wrong and the anger of all of that, when you carry anger, you carry a few other bags with you, because anger is a set of negative experiences, painful experiences. With your anger, there is also underneath that a great sadness. That sadness is manifesting these feelings of self-pity. When you do not forgive people to the point of becoming sad about it, you also start wallowing in your self-pity. It is interesting, because the anger has arisen because something that you expected to happen has not happened. Something you wanted to happen did not happen. Right? So there's anger at one level of your response to that. And then there's sadness at another level, because it really didn't happen. Right? And you're sad about it. It depresses you to the point of self-pity and all of the horror that goes with it. In addition to this undercurrent of sadness wrapped underneath your anger, just another layer below there, there is fear too. Because the thing that you wanted to happen did not happen. And my God, it may never happen. Fearful now that it may never happen. Great anxiety. And then even further down underneath that, just when you add up all three, anger plus sadness plus fear equals suffering, equals sorrow. Now you're in a state of sorrow. Forgiveness is a way to break up this constellation. Forgiveness is a way to let go of all of this baggage. When you forgive, you're giving yourself relief from your anger, your sadness, your fear, your sorrow. It is something that you do in your own behalf. But the problem, as Bhakti Maji and I discovered, is that you don't have just one grievance, you got about 20 million. So that means that every 2 seconds you have to be involved in the process of forgiving. Forgiving. All of your time is spent forgiving. Because you have so much to forgive others for, because you are carrying around so much resentment. Everybody has wronged you. Your husband did something wrong, your children did something wrong, your neighbor, your mama, your brother, your sister. You can even go back to when you were 4 years old and the little boy next door did something wrong. And you still clinging to the resentment of this doing you wrong. So your list of grievances is almost infinite. Is that right? Dr. Martin said it is infinite. Not almost, it is infinite. She declared it. I trusted a woman, seemed like she knew what she's talking about. So, what Bhakti Maharaj and I discovered in our assessing this condition was that what one must do, rather than become caught up in this endless, never-ending process of forgiving. Of course, one has to do it to a certain point to free up enough psychic and emotional energy to go to the next level, which is to let go of that person, that self, that is is capable of being offended in the first place. Let go of that. As long as you are clinging to this kind of self that is vulnerable to accumulating resentment, feeling offended, as long as you are that self, then you will be involved forever in that process of feeling wrong, forgiven. But then in the next instance, you're feeling wronged again, and then again you're forgiven. And in this cycle, you spend your whole life feeling wrong, for giving yourself some temporary, and it's temporary. Forgiveness is a way to give yourself temporary from your emotional and psychological trauma and suffering. Transcending that very self that is having the experience of being offended, and therefore the need to forgive. Transcending that very self is the solution. And then when you are able to transcend that self, there is no need to forgive because there is no offense. So forgiveness comes to an end. Nothing to forgive. Because nobody can offend you. Then you have moved into what Jesus calls the kingdom of God, where you stand free from all that. But while you are outside the kingdom of God, the practice of radical forgiveness is a great aid. But you truly must deal with the self that is undergoing and having the experience of being offended. That's the real issue. What about this self? It seems that this self is the culprit behind all of our problems. And everywhere we turn and look, we find this self. This self that you have created. Now, this is interesting. You have fabricated this self and way of being that is being offended every 2 or 3 seconds or feeling resentment. You have created that. You formulated that. And you formulated with a purpose to it. In order to fulfill yourself, to gratify yourself. And whenever this impulse towards self-gratification is interrupted by other people's behavior, that is what produces your anger. You're angry because somebody or some situation or circumstance is preventing you from fulfilling yourself. And that's what you are about. That is all that you are about. This constant, never-ending effort to gratify yourself. And you have invented a self that you feel enables you to most effectively achieve that goal. This is what we've been looking at, searching for throughout this weekend, trying to get a glimpse of this elusive self that is operating. Until you can see it, how can you transcend it? You see, Dr. That's what we agree. Dr. Maggie and I have gone into it. So, take advantage of her research, getting a PhD. So much more can be said about it. You see, you have to begin to understand, even you have to understand the dynamics underlying the actual phenomena of feeling offended. Have you ever thought about it going to come out? It's interesting. What are the psychodynamics that is really underlying and generating the experience of being wrong? What happened is that our experience of being wrong is rooted in our own interpretation of a set of events. Events are simply made up of facts. Facts don't have any meaning at all. In Buddhism, we talk about the nature of reality as being empty and meaningless. That things as they are, the suchness of life, is empty and without any meaning whatsoever. We have. Now, the event takes place. A certain set of facts coalesce in an experience. Then you make a story out of it. Are you following me? You add meaning to it and spin a story. Now, somebody came up and called you a black nigger. The fact is, they call you a black nigger. That is it. It is empty and it is meaningless. Now, you will make a story out of that. They call me a black nigger because they hate me, they're trying to kill me, they're going to... You see, you start weaving a story. You create a narrative around it. And then you replace the reality with your narrative. And you respond. Your bubble. You construct your own bubble of interpretation. And that is what you do. Now the truth is, this is what happened. And that is it. You can respond to the truth, respond appropriately, or you can interpret it, turn it into a story, and then replace reality with your story, your interpretation. It is a kind of fallacy, a kind of logical fallacy, a kind of emotional fallacy. And then you turn ordinary, empty, meaningless facts into personal assaults on you. And then it could be a walk outside and it started raining. Now you think God hates you because he knew that you wanted to have a picnic out there. And you see my point? Now the fact that it's just raining. Rain has no meaning. It simply is. It simply is. It is empty of meaning. That is why anybody can give it any kind of meaning. Because it does not come with meaning. But you will add some kind of meaning to that event, right? And you will turn it into an offense. Now God has offended you. And God had nothing to do with it. So you do the same thing. My husband offended me. Your husband had nothing to do with it. Yes, he was a part of a series and set of factual events, yes. Yeah, even the words came out of his mouth, yes. All of that. But not the meaning that you have assigned. And you assign a meaning that hurts yourself. And then you replace the event with your interpretation of the event. It is a kind of pension that you are doing to yourself. The world simply is. That's almost unimpossible. It is simply what it is. And if you are always putting a negative spin on it, if you are always putting a spin on it that turns everything into an offense against you, then you're going to have a lot of anger, a lot of sadness, a lot of anxiety, a lot of sorrow, a lot of suffering. But it is your own doing. So there's a lot of things that goes on. Anything else?
What you're saying just remind me of Niels Bohr's argument that there is no objective reality, and it's interesting how a lot of modern scientists now seem to be talking same lines with quantum theory of what mystics have been saying for ages.
Yes, science confirms. Science is confirming the same. Any kind of rigorous pursuit of truth will bring you to the same conclusion. The only criteria that it be rigorous, that the inspection be rigorous, that it be by its fruit, scientific. And it comes to the same thing. There is nothing objective that corresponds with the meanings you are assigning to reality at all. It is a profound thing. It is truly a profound thing. Things are just as they are. It is a great mystery. Nobody knows what it means. One of the examples that we have used in conversations with a few of you, I used the example of a star. And we can look up into the heavens and see a star. And then we try to calculate where it's located in space. And we will each make that calculation from where we are standing. Is that right? And so if I am standing here, I will come up with one set of coordinates, locating the star. You're standing there, you will come up with a different set of coordinates because our measurement will be relative to our position. And there can be as many combinations of coordinates as there are people calculating, right? If there's a billion people calculating the position of the star, there will be a billion different calculations and no two will correspond with each other. And then there will be a great fight among all of the calculators, right? Saying that my position, my calculation is right. That is exactly, I checked my math 5 times. No, I'm right about it. But then the next person will be making the same claim. So there will be a great battle on what is the real location of the star. Now the reality is that we don't know where the star is really located at in terms of absolute space. Nor is it necessary if our intent is enjoying the starlight. Life is like starlight. It is to be lived, not calculated. You cannot calculate it. Where did it come from? How many years, ago did the creation start? Scientists now are coming to this point. It seems that the universe has no meaning at all. It is simply to be enjoyed, to be experienced. That's it. They are now talking just like a Buddhist, just like a mystic, aren't they? It is really interesting. So the great scientists who have penetrated deep into the mystery that is science, and the great mystics who have penetrated deeply into the opposite pole, have both come to the same conclusion. It is only those of us in between that are still walking around here confused about that. Because you've done no great science in either direction. You have not done any inner science or outer science, so you simply remain one of the babblers arguing about the absolute location of the star. Just babbling. Just babbling. I talked to about it too.
Yes, Bhagwan. I was thinking that it seems something paradoxical about, the analogy that you just made about how we assign our values on a situation. When it seems the situation develops, even though deliberate, but there's an element of accidental, or it seems happenstance, that we carry the momentum and then it becomes a thing that we do, and so we have a shadow government within ourselves that becomes a monster.
Yes.
Perhaps unintentionally, which makes it even more difficult to find them because it's so close to you that it can hide in your intellect.
It's very hard to see how you're doing. To really see and be in touch with all those psychic forces that are standing right behind your consciousness that is really shaping, dictating how you are functioning on this conscious level. You're absolutely right. That shadow, that thing behind your
So that's the stuff that we need to let go of in order not to experience this negativity in the first place.
Yeah, you must let go of this self. You must let go of this ego, this self that you have created for purposes of gaining self-fulfillment and gratification and consolation. This has been the thing we have been arguing most of this weekend, that you really got to start really trying to catch and see this thing. You must really try to see this thing. I have called it your ego racket. It is the way you have made yourself. It is the way of being you have created for purposes of manipulating circumstances, situations, people, in a way that you are able to fulfill or console yourself. And whenever that ambition is frustrated, then you have anger. And for those of us who have turned toward a spiritual path, this becomes critical. Because you cannot move 1 inch on the path in that condition. You will simply continue now trying to hustle God like you hustle people in this world. You will still try to use that same old strategy and racket and that swindle that has been successful for you in the world with God, with the faith, with the master. And it simply will not work. And becoming frustrated again, then you'll get angry again. You must truly see that. You must find that way of being that you have fabricated and depend on for purposes of self-fulfillment. You see, you want something from the God. That self that you are identified with wants something from God. You're that self. Don't think you're not. Don't think that you ceased being the self you were once you came onto the path than you were before you came on the path. It's the same old rotten self. Nothing has changed. All you've done is washed a little of the dirt off it, but it's the same old self. It has not been transfigured, transformed, transcended. It is still operating. It's underground, but it is operating. And so this same self that wants things from the world, wants things from people, now wants enlightenment. And it will resort to the same way of being in sets of strategies and roles that it has been using in the world to now to try to fulfill itself spiritually. Now in the world, if it has been able to create charm and found charm effective as a means of disarming people to the point that you can swindle them, hustle them, get them to buy into your own ego strategy. If it has been very effective in the world, if it has become your principal way of being, the way that you depend on the most because you have had the most success, being your charming self. So then when you come to the path, you try to be charming with the master, charming with God. It is not going to work. There is no way to charm yourself into the condition that is enlightenment. You see? You can't get it. God and the master is not giving it up. You must do the sadhana. You must do that which is required for this. But you don't want to do that which is required for this. You want to use one of your hustles. So when your charm don't work, you go to another phase of your racket. You have found in your outward experience that if you can do your pitiful act, oh how pitiful, you might be able to invoke, and you have been able to invoke other people's sympathy to the point that you're able to gratify yourself in that relationship. You made them feel sorry enough for you to get what you wanted. So then you come before God. Now you try to pull that same act of pity. Oh, Lord, I'm so helpless. I'm so pitiful. I ain't got nothing. Please give me something like that. So, is that right? I'm doing it right? The helplessness act. You see, because your helplessness act has worked. So you try to pull it on God, pull it on the master. It will not work. You are trying to hustle. You're trying to pull one of your old cheap worldly rackets. You're trying to pigeon drop God. And this will not work. And so your whole struggle on the path is finding out none of your ego racket will work. Once you really found out that none of your ego rackets is going to work, none of your schemes, none of your scams, none of your hustles, none of the successful ways you have swindled the world is going to work on the path. Then when you realize that, now you submit, you surrender, and you do that, which the master and God has been telling you to do from day one. They're not telling you to do anything different after 20 years than they told you on the first day. It is always the same old stuff. It is just have to be patient until you exhaust your racket. But you cannot drop this racket unless you can see it. You have become so sympathetic and tolerant of this self, this dysfunctional self that you have fabricated for purposes of self-fulfillment and consolation. You become so sympathetic that it is almost impossible for you to see it, to suspect that that is your biggest problem. That is the only problem. As far as the spiritual life is concerned, that is your greatest thing. Yes, but
I remember in one side song we had, you really emphasized very strongly how one of the best ways for us to get a glimpse of ourselves is in the mirror of our relationships.
looking in our relationships, you see, if you can do this with honesty, truthfulness, then you can really look in that relationship and see how you really become when you're trying to fulfill yourself within the context of that relationship. Look what kind of self you conjure up when you want to get somebody, your wife or your husband. You know, look at that. Look at the transformation. Do you be intimidating? Sometimes that's your way. You intimidate. You understand? Threaten. You found that if I can threaten you, right? If I can act threaten you, I can get more. Because people just cave in. But look and see. Look and see. You'll really see how you are. You'll really see what's going on. But you must find that. Otherwise, you will spend many, many, many years feeling that I want God realization, I want self-realization. I want the peace that surpasses all understanding. I want enlightenment. I want to know the truth, so forth and so on. You will go on articulating a spiritual goal of that nature. And you will remain simply dumbfounded and bewildered as to why you have not attained any of your goals. You don't understand what is happening. You write me continuously. Bhagwan, I don't know what it is. You know, I really want this thing. Man, Bhagwan. Now, Bhagwan, you know. I am simply telling because you are not really involved in doing any of the things that you must do to attain your spiritual goal. You are wasting all of your time in this racket. You're trying to hustle your way to enlightenment. Just think of the nerve of that. A child, Kiva, we were talking about that. You trying to hustle your way, bullshit your way into a state of enlightenment. Look at that. You're trying to double talk the Lord. What is that? What is that? And it is this way of being that you must let go. You must drop that. You must transcend that. You must see it to the point of radical understanding and then transcend it. I have asked you all to even look and see, what are you getting out of being that way anyhow? Really? I mean, really. Look at your life. Really look at your life. What have you gotten out of it? What have you gotten? What has been the result? Assess yourself. Look at the outcome. What have you really got now? You've been hustling all these years, and what have you got to show? Nothing. Just nothing. So if you cannot be moved and motivated out of shame to drop it, then be motivated from a rational basis. You got nothing out of it. You really got nothing out of it. Let me see if I can hustle the Lord by appearing to be devoted. Sincere about it. Sincere about God. But you're simply spending all your energies in appearing to be devoted. You're not putting any energy into the practice. You're trying to appear. Again, you're trying to run a con on God. To somehow pull off the incredible caper of God confusing you with a Buddha. You see? Or a Jesus, or a Muhammad, or a Muhammad, or a Moses, or a Mirabai, or a Sanjay, or a Dadu, or a Kabir. But you're going to appear like you got that kind of bhakti. Thinking the Lord don't know the difference between you and the Buddha. Lord is clearly can distinguish between you and the Buddha. But that's just some more of your hustling. That's some more of your swinging. That's some more of your racket that you're bringing to the spiritual. And as long as you refuse to move your energies out of these rackets and various levels of our rackets, then you will not have the energy or the right relationship to God in the past to really deploy yourself, to really engage yourself. So this comes down to something very simple. Either you can remain the way you are, which is unenlightened, full of inner turmoil, miserable, trembling in your boots, hoping against all reason and rational thinking that you will somehow have a painless death and that it won't happen right away. You can go on living like that, running your rackets here, running your little rackets at home, at work, in the marketplace. You can go on with a life like that, or you can truly be converted to the spiritual life. It is your choice.
Here's last night, my contemplation. I was looking at my strategy. actually give me this happiness. I haven't actually submitted it. I haven't submitted it. And I know until I actually submit and come to this understanding that what I'm looking for is not out here, I won't.
No, you will not. And you're absolutely right, Mahadasi. You see, this conversion is at the level of your heart, not your head. If you read all of the books, heard all the arguments, and you are convinced, in theory, of course, that God is the creator of all, and therefore everything has come from it, and so whatever it contains by way of benefit, et cetera, can be had in its purest, unmitigated form by finding God, et cetera, et cetera. You know, all of the logic of conversion, but your heart is not. You still feel, deep down inside of yourself, you still feel that there is still a possibility of combining people, things, circumstances, situations in the world in such a way that you will be able to meet your appetite and need for happiness, and that you will not have to turn to something as drastic as the worship of God. You're not that bad off yet. There's still another possibility.
Split, like straddle
Of course
the
you
fence.
Of course you will. You see, in fact, true conversion is when you have turned. Not when you're in the process of it, when you have turned. When you are now facing a different direction in your quest for happiness. Real conversion is when you have come to the conclusion, the unshakable conclusion, that there is simply no other means by which I can fulfill this vacuum in myself to really know happiness, real happiness, unless I unite with God. Unless you set aside all of your other ambitions for finding happiness in this world and turn wholly to God, you cannot have it. That is the first commandment. You must love thy God with all thy heart, thy soul, and thy mind, and thy strength. And that's real. That's real. You have to understand. The great mystic Moses was telling you something very real. You see, that's not theology. He's giving you science there. All thy heart, all of it, all of it. Didn't say 95%, didn't say 62.5%. All thy heart, all thy soul, all of it, all of it. All of your hope must be in God. All of it. There must be no hope in this world, no hope in nobody in this world, no hope in any circumstance in this world. You must become absolutely hopeless as far as this world is concerned. Are you following my argument? And I have presented that many times. As long as you have some hope in the world, you cannot attain anything in the spiritual life. Why? Because you will really not be submitted. You will not turn. You will not put your energies into it. You will not shift your locus. You will still be leaking out in the world. You will still be involved in rackets. You see, turning to God means I'm going straight now. You see my point? I'm going straight now. I'm giving up these kind of underhanded ways. You see, giving up my ego enterprise. Totally dependent on God. It's the beauty in His love. I submit. I submit. I surrender. I surrender. There is no other way for me to be made happy. I surrender to you, God. I surrender. I submit. I give up. No more hustling. No more maneuver. You see, I surrender. That's Islam. That's what it means to be Muslim. Keeping the covenant of Moses, making that first commandment the supreme thing that informs your life. Only then are you really a Jew. Only then are you part of the house of Israel. Not now. Now this is just a ancient historical truth. What make you think it's going to be different for you standing in this time in this place? The house of Ra is not a way around the commandments. You're going to run right into them. There is no way around. Now that's what you got to get straight about. That's what you got to get straight about. You can go on appearing to be so committed for the benefit of impressing each other. That's all right. That's your little game you play amongst yourselves. You understand? But the Lord is not taking it by that. You must really turn to the Lord with all thy heart, thy soul, thy mind, thy strength. Accept the Lord and the Lord grace that you are moved into a condition of happiness, then you just accept the faith that I ain't gonna never be happy. Unless the Lord gives me this, you will never have it. Accept it. As long as you believe that you can get a little happiness from your wife, your husband, a little happiness from your kids, a little happiness from your career, a little happiness from Fox Valley Mall, as long as you think you can put all these little pockets and pieces of happiness together and make you one big happiness pie, then you will go on with your racket. You're trying to circumvent God. Listen to what you're trying to do. You're actually trying to get around God. You're trying to cut God out. Look at you. Look at what you become. Look how slick you are. You are the supreme hustler. You're trying to get around God. You're trying to do everything possible to become enlightened except become involved with God in the process. Look at that. Look at that. You're trying to read yourself. You're trying to debate yourself. You're trying to talk each other into it. You know. How you going to do that? You must truly enter into and engage that injunctive and that ordeal that has been established. Giving all your heart, your soul, your mind, everything. Giving all your attention to God. That's what it means. Giving your attention to God. Putting all your attention on God. All of it. Every ounce of it. All of your attention. The Master said 24/7 the attention should be on. 2.5 hours of compromise. Like in Islam, Salat, namaz for 5 times a day is a compromise. The Prophet, peace be upon him, gave it as a practice to those Muslims that were too weak to really follow Islam. It was courtesy. It was a courtesy form of salah. Temporary. Just to make you feel like you're part of the ummah. But the zikr that the Prophet, peace be upon him, was talking about is continuous. You will submit. I submit. All of my attention, I submit, I surrender. I give up. You see, I give up. There's no God but God. And I surrender. And you must do that. Now you must do that, and you must drop this racket. And this is true. This is not changed. This will never change. So you're right, Mahadasi. This is the crux of it, isn't it? Now Mahadasi brought us right down to the crux. Well, Mahadasi always brings us down to the crux of it, isn't it? But this is really the issue, isn't it? This is the issue. Will you really become wholly dependent upon God? To become wholly dependent. To look in no other direction for your happiness. give it up. To give it up. And now, move that energy that you have been expended and perpetrating your hustle, your racket. Take that energy and bring it into the sun. If you will pursue your sadhana with 1/10 of the energy that you involve in perpetuating your racket, something would have happened within 6 weeks. But you do not do that. You're trying to get around it. You see? To make the Lord feel sorry enough for you. Some will even resort to intimidating God. God, if you don't give me enlightenment, I'm not going to worship you. Like you deprived of God or something. You see what it is? What is this? Something else. As we come to our closing minutes.
And to respond to what you just said, some people feel that when they come to this path and they make the decision to go the spiritual path, and if things are not working out, or if they did run into some suffering or something, they start feeling like, well, this is not working for me, or they might feel like if I'm gonna go with God, then I shouldn't have any suffering. So, and then you get weak and they
Sure.
back into the other side because they feel like, oh well, I know what's gonna make me happy here.
They were hustling. They really wasn't turning toward it. They were hustling. You see my point? They were hustling from the very beginning. That's all.
And so, when you run into suffering after making a choice to go this side, and you're gonna run into some suffering.
Yes.
So expect that and not think that that's meaning it's not working. It's just how you deal with it.
In fact, you see, when you have really truly converted, when you run into suffering, where you gonna go? There is no place to go to. You can only go through the suffering because there is no place to go back from to. That's the difference. The hustler always leaves them an option, a window open, an alternative. They always got something to fall back on. They are hustlers. You understand? They always got a getaway route planned. They had it planned before they came in because they're up to robbery. They had already anticipated it might not work, and when that happened, then I'll do this. You see? It is not that same surrendering, submitted posture that we were talking about earlier. When you really turn to the path out of that spirit, there is no going back. Where am I going to go? You see? You read in the beautiful Psalms or in the beautiful Rubaiyats and the beautiful saying of the mystic. That's what they're saying in these beautiful lines of poetry and prose, right? They're saying, Lord, if you don't save me, then I'm just going to perish. If you don't give it to me, then I'm not going to have it. Now, what can I do? You see my point? I have no option. You see? Unless you show mercy. That is what the purport behind. Lord, have mercy. Mercy, Lord. Mercy. Because I don't have no option. You don't need mercy when you got an option. What do you need with mercy? You got an option.
Like in meditating today,
Yes.
everybody was like, Bhagwan, please have mercy.
They said to me that. Yes, I suppose it's like that. Because also when we have come here, when this is our only way, we don't have any other way to go. And that's why, when you come to the path, it's like, either I make it or not. There is no other way. once asked Alexander the Great the secret of his incredible conquest of the world. I must have told this story many times. You all know it. And you know his secret. He burnt the boats in the harbor. Got to conquer. Nowhere to go. And so it's like that. When you come into the path, now you're bound to run into some suffering. Why? Because you are still the same self that you always have been. Just now coming to the path, self is not changed, right? That is the process that you got to go through, that kind of dying of that self. That self has to die, be killed, right? So naturally that self is going to run into some disappointments. Because, again, it is usually starting from a position of wreck. And it's going to run into some suffering. It's not going to get its way. Things are not going to go right. Just, oh my God, you can't get around the meditation. You've been trying, but you can't get around it. You can't get around it. You've been trying, pleading, trying to bargain. Okay, isn't there something else I can do besides meditation? No. Then in 5 minutes you're back again. Well, what about this? But one instead of meditation. Well, let me try this. What can do? Well, what about a crystal? Can I get a crystal? If I get the right kind of crystal and hang it around my neck and put it in the right kind of metal, won't that do? You see? Tarot cards, right? Or you try to get a certain level of knowledge, thinking that it's all about information. Well, Bhagwan, surely if I accumulate, 10,000 pages of information in my mind, surely the gravity of the accumulation of that information will bring about my transformation. No, not going to do it. But you would rather go and cram your head full of the contents of 10,000 books and try to get around doing what the Master and God has told you, you got to do this. Don't try to hustle. And not getting around it, and now you enter into this process, and then the suffering begins. And initially at the level of the body, it starts hurting right away, because now you're going to go through some fire. That's what Jesus said. We talked about that last time. Jesus said, when you're near me, you're near fire. You're bound to get burned. When you come near truth, when you come near God, you're bound, there's going to always be some fire. Ask Moses about it. You see? Fire is a symbol, an ancient one. It represents the process that you will be entering into when you are coming into the presence of God. You're going to start experiencing the fires and the pains of transformation. And it will start at the level of the body. When those children were born of your body, just as when you were born of your mother's body, we don't have recall of it. But some schools of psychiatry and psychologists are studying the kind of recorded impact of the birth experience. Understanding that your head has got to go through that narrow canal. Do you understand the pain that is associated with that? The pain is immense. That body of that child, 6, 7, 8, 9 pounds, squeezing, having to go through that. It is incredible. Incredible, the pain that precedes birth. It is the same on the path. You see? You're going to have to go through this thing. You see? You got to go to the cross. You're going to have to go to the cross. Meditation is none but hanging on the cross. It is hanging on the cross. And if you want what Christ got, you got to hang on this cross. And there's just no other way. We were saying at lunch today, and we're having a revelation, that you got to go through the suffering. You got to write tonight. There's no other way to get past suffering except go through the suffering. This body gonna hurt. Somebody was asking, well, but what about all these mystics and gurus and sages and stuff? I said, it's pain in the body. This body hurts. If I sit here, right, for
hour, 2 hours, there's actual pain in this body. It's not like, oh, that Bhagwan, he done practiced so much. No. I'm feeling the same pain you feeling. I'm willing to take it. I'll pay that price. I want what's on the other side of it. I'll pay the price. You just won't pay the price. That's the only difference. Same pain. Same pain, folks. Don't solve that pain that it gets in your ankle and to the point where you just, you know what I'm saying? I feel that. It's not different. My ankle feels the same pain is there. That don't never go away. As long as you have this body, it's going to be some pain. That's the truth. But if what you want is on the other side of that pain, you're going to go through that. If you can keep your attention focused on that which you are in pursuit of, it'll distract from the pain. But physiologically speaking, the pain is still in this body. You follow what I'm saying? So don't be looking for a certain, well, let me see if I get 4 pillows on this side, I get 3 pillows. I mean, look at your concoctions. I mean, you people way out. You mean, you see, now, Bhadraji has made these very simple math, and this has been used in the Buddhist tradition, and this is about as comfortable as you're going to get. This is about it. This is top of the line. That's as far as it's going to go. Now from here you can put 12 more pillows underneath, and you know, some of you are thinking about tying yourself into pastas. let me come here, tie my leg. So it won't move. No. There is not going to be any posture that you find where you're going to be able to get past this discomfort. Give it up. And just let's go. Now that's the truth. It ain't going to never be comfortable. Getting up on time for your meditation ain't going to never be easy. You see, you all are still looking for an easy way. Because you hustling here. You hustling. You hustling. You trying to get the most for the littlest amount of expenditure. You trying to get maximum spiritual return on minimum impact. You are hustling. You are in a racket. This is what you do. Everywhere you go, whether you're in a store or whether you're on the path, you are constantly trying to hustle. Now, some of you used to steal out of stores, so I want you to really follow the analogy. to its ultimate ending. Huh? Hustle. More racket. And I'm simply saying, I am simply pleading with you that on today that we begin to really look at this. This has been one of the whole purpose of this retreat. I wanted to not just limit ourselves to the practice. That's obviously the foundation. Now we want to start building on it. Coming into right spirit. Now let's get into the right spirit. Come into right relationship with God. Now you must come into right relationship with God. At least you and God should be straight. My God, you don't have any straight relationship with nobody else on this planet. And every other relationship you run in a racket. You see my point? Have one pure relationship. At least God should be spared that. At least that. Is that right, Keith? At least God in that. It should be straight. Your spiritual path, you should be straight. You should be straight. And that's been my whole argument over this week. That has been the reason I have given you the Holy Qurans. I hope that you will keep working with these things. Every time you visit them, you'll get another layer. If you're working, you'll have more and more, get more and more insight. Just keep working. You cannot answer the Holy Qurans from the back of the book. Don't even try. The answers are not in the books. They're in you. You got to move inside. You really got to do all of these things. All right. I think we have enough for today. must thank Guru Dasa and Kiva for their seva and all the hard work they did, organizing everybody and getting us here, and taking good care of us so that we don't have to use our brain at all. At least I don't. So we want to thank you, Sister Guru Dasa and Kiva, for the great work that you have done. You know, Kiva, 3 years ago, originated the concept of doing some retreats and so that her vision finally came into being. That somebody started us off, and each retreat is getting better and better. You agree?
Yes.
And that's because you all are getting better and better. I fuss with you a lot. You see my point? But you have to understand that that's because I don't want you to, miss this incredible opportunity that is your lifetime. But you all, with each retreat, get better and get stronger. I love that. The one thing that they must say about you, if they observe you from where I see you, is that you got courage. You know what I mean? You got courage. You see. You all fight. You see. You don't break and run. You see, you're not running. You get beat up there on the floor, I know it. The floor be beating you up, but you hitting back. Every time it hits you, you get it back. I like that. You see? You fight. I like that. That's beautiful. Checkout time is 3 o'clock. You just need to leave your keys at the desk up front. The basket for the ladies, men, your basket's there. You just leave your doors open. They'll come in and clean up and everything for you. I know that there's 1 or 2 more people that we didn't get a chance to say a little bit more about your work that you're doing on your Qurans. We'll have that time. Satarani downstairs, right underneath his voice. There's a little lounge in the first room. We'll meet there instead of going around to the parlor. Just to finish up a few more things. A couple of other things. I'm hoping to be able to offer a workshop, if I can get Hunter Adams to put together all of the notes for me and do it for me, that will take you all through the neurology of enlightenment. I want you to begin to really understand the science of it all, the brain-body component of the transformation that you're trying to walk in yourself. We'll probably give them something that we won't waste his time. I don't know what it would be, because it'll be a small fee, but I want Hunter to share with you all of the kinds of information you will need to know that will really help you really see that that even the brain has to be wired a certain way to be happy. Do you understand? So you don't understand. You don't even have the synapse in place to be happy. The problem is not that there's not things that you got your hand on that couldn't give you happiness. The problem is your brain is not even developed enough to be happy. It's incredible. It is not wired. At least it's wired, but you have not activated. When you have activated your brain and the wiring, the synapses, all of that, then you can be happy with a bottle of water. You can be happy with what you got. Just anything in the world, a tree, a flower, is enough to produce this. But when your brain, the mind, has not been wired through the process of meditation, you can have a palace in the world. This is about science, folks. This is about science, too. So I want you to understand the science of this meditation. I want you to understand what you're doing when you're sitting here repeating those names. That it's not just some kind of vague, mystical incantation that will metaphysics, This is brain rewiring going on. You're making synapses in this brain. You see? The practice is reorganizing your nervous system to a point of being capable of extracting this from a flower, just like a bee does. That's why all the emphasis is put on meditation. The mystics don't waste no time on nothing else, They don't waste no time. Meditation, meditation, meditation. That's the only thing you hear because that's the reality. It is really the reality. It's not like they got some kind of club where they agree that this will be the doctrine. It's not like the Catholic Church that sits around and have councils and decide what will be doctrine. Meditation is the doctrine because it is the only way. Because you got to rewire the nervous system to become capable of extracting bliss from any experience that you come in contact. Now, my God, this is amazing. This is amazing. You are wired at the level of your nervous system and brain to be enlightened. Meditation is hooking your wires. It's okay. Yeah, I'm trying to get all this on the tape. See, I'm getting a little fountain in the background in the group. Yeah, I'm getting a little fountain.
I got some. Yeah.
Stop running back to meditation.
Oh, look at that.
So did you have the China?
Yeah, I got everything. Enjoy the retreat?
Yeah, I'm eating, so what?
And that's where I'm ending it.